You're about to hear something that was never meant to reach you. A transmission lost in time, a warning that shouldn't exist, and a story so unsettling that even the man who experienced it refuses to speak about it to this day because some messages aren't just heard, they follow you. In the freezing winter of 1978, 19-year-old Daniel Harper arrived in a remote, nearly forgotten town in West Virginia, hoping for nothing more than a quiet escape from the noise of city life. But the moment he stepped off the bus and looked around, something felt wrong in a way he couldn't explain. There were houses. There were people, but the place felt unusually still, as if the town itself was holding its breath. Surrounded by thick forests that blocked out the horizon and narrow roads that seemed to disappear into darkness long before night even fell, his Uncle Robert's house stood at the very edge of town, isolated, old, and worn down by time. The kind of place where every wooden board had a voice and every shadow felt a little too deep. During dinner, everything seemed normal until Robert casually said, "Something that didn't sit right. If you hear anything strange at night, don't go looking for it." And although he quickly brushed it off like a joke, there was a seriousness in his tone that stayed with Daniel long after the conversation ended. That night, the silence inside the house felt unnatural. Not peaceful, but heavy, pressing against the walls. And at exactly 2:30 a.m., Daniel's eyes snapped open as a faint crackling sound filled the room, followed by something far more disturbing, a voice, distorted and uneven, like an old radio struggling to tune into a signal that shouldn't exist, speaking in broken fragments that made no immediate sense yet carried a strange urgency that made it impossible to ignore, confused but drawn in. Daniel stepped out into the dark hallway, his footsteps slow and cautious as the wooden floor creaked loudly beneath him, the sound of the voice growing clearer with each step as it echoed through the house, transforming from meaningless noise into something structured, an announcement, a warning, something official yet completely out of place, as if it belonged to another time or another reality entirely. But the moment he reached the living room, the sound vanished instantly, cutting off so sharply it felt unnatural, leaving behind a silence so deep it made his ears ring. And as he stood there staring at the empty space, searching for any sign of a radio or device, he found nothing, just an old clock ticking steadily on the wall, each second stretching longer than the last, as if time itself had slowed down. The next morning, Daniel brought it up carefully, expecting his uncle to laugh or dismiss it. But instead Robert paused for just a second, too long before giving a simple answer. Old houses make noise, yet his eyes told a different story. One that suggested this wasn't new, this wasn't random. And this definitely wasn't something he wanted to talk about over the following nights. The same thing happened again and again. Always at the exact same time, always the same type of broadcast. And this time Daniel paid closer attention, writing down every phrase he could catch. Evacuate immediately, signal unidentified. Do not respond, words that sounded less like random interference, and more like a desperate attempt to communicate something critical, something urgent, something that hadn't reached its intended audience, driven by curiosity and a growing sense of unease. Daniel went to the town library, digging through dusty archives and forgotten newspapers until he found something that made his stomach drop. Reports from 1952, describing a mysterious radio signal heard by multiple residents in the same area, carrying nearly identical warnings, appearing for several nights before disappearing without explanation, leaving behind only confusion, fear, and theories that ranged from secret military experiments to something far less explainable. That night, Daniel didn't sleep. He waited, sitting in the dark with the clock ticking toward 2:30 a.m. Every second building tension, until the moment finally arrived. And when it did, the sound came back stronger than ever before. Clearer, louder, more desperate. The voice now almost fully understandable as it pushed through layers of static, repeating a chilling message. If you can hear this, you need to leave. This location is not safe. And then, in a moment that Daniel would never forget for the rest of his life, he realized something that made everything worse. Asterisk, the sound wasn't echoing through the house anymore. It was coming from inside his room, slowly, almost unwillingly. He turned his head toward the corner where an old, dusty radio sat on his desk, a radio his uncle had clearly said was broken years ago, and as Daniel stepped closer, the static intensified, the voice straining as if it was fighting against time itself to deliver one final message. But just as the words began to form clearly, the signal collapsed into silence once again. The next morning, Daniel didn't ask questions, didn't wait for explanations, didn't even mention what he had heard. He packed his belongings quickly and left the town without looking back, carrying with him a memory that never faded and a question that never found an answer. Because deep down he knew one terrifying possibility. That message wasn't meant for the past, asterisk, it was meant for the future. And somehow, he had heard it too soon, asterisk, if this story sent chills down your spine and made you question what might be hiding in silence. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with others, because some stories aren't just told, they're discovered, and the next one might be even more disturbing.